Welcome. In this explainer, we are going to deconstruct one of the most famous and, honestly, most influential texts ever written, the very first chapter of Genesis.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. Most of us, we know the story, right? 7 days, light, land, animals, humanity. And we often read it as a kind of, primitive science report. But what if its original purpose was something far more radical? What if it was written as this bold political and theological manifesto designed to challenge the superpowers of its day?
And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put on our detective hats and really examine the language, the structure, and the historical context of Genesis 1. The goal here is to see the story we think we know with completely fresh eyes, to understand it as this incredibly sophisticated document designed for a specific time, a specific place, and for a very, very specific purpose. Our investigation starts right where the text does, with the very first words. And it turns out, how you translate them changes the entire story.
The word is bereshit. Now, for centuries, it's been translated as "in the beginning." But here's the thing, the original Hebrew grammar is actually ambiguous, and it allows for another, equally valid possibility that has absolutely massive implications.
So this single word presents a huge fork in the road. In the beginning suggests an absolute start, God creating the entire universe out of sheer nothingness. But the alternative, when God began to create, implies something totally different. That God is stepping into a pre-existing chaotic scene, what the text calls formless and empty, and begins the work of bringing order. Now that second view, it sounds a whole lot like other creation stories from the ancient world.
But regardless of which translation you lean towards, the text immediately zeroes in on one central theme, the deliberate, purposeful creation of order out of chaos. And the language it uses to do this is incredibly precise.
Take the verb to create. In Hebrew, that's bara. This word is special. Throughout the entire Hebrew Bible, whenever this specific verb is used, God is the one doing it. See, humans can make things, they can form things, but only God can bara. It signifies a type of creation that is completely effortless and totally unique to divine power.
And this precision is absolutely intentional. The authors had other words for making, like asa or yetzar, and those apply to both God and humans, but they saved bara for these huge, pivotal moments: the creation of the cosmos itself, the creation of conscious life, and the creation of humanity. It's a very deliberate linguistic choice to elevate God's creative act above all else. This commitment to order is also baked right into the structure of the story. The 6 days aren't just a random list. They form this beautiful, poetic parallel. In the first 3 days, God forms the domains, light, sky, and land. Then in the next 3 days, he fills those exact same domains. So day 4's sun and moon fill the light and darkness from day 1. Day 5's birds and fish fill the sky and sea from day 2. And day 6's animals and humanity fill the land from day 3.
This elegant structure, it's not just for show. It's making a really powerful argument that the universe is not some random violent accident. No, it is the intentional product of a designer who brings order, function, and purpose. And at every single step, that creation is declared good, finally culminating in supremely good.
So why was this message of a peaceful, ordered creation so revolutionary? Well, to get that, we have to look at the stories it was written to confront, especially the creation myth of the superpower of the age, Babylon.
The Babylonian story, the Enuma Elish, is pretty much the polar opposite of Genesis. In it, the world is literally created from violence. The hero god Marduk battles and kills the chaos dragon goddess Tiamat, and then he splits her corpse in two to make the sky and the earth. Genesis 1 presents this radical alternative. Creation isn't combat, it's a calm, authoritative command. God just speaks, and it happens.
And the contrast gets even starker when it comes to humanity. In the Babylonian myth, humans are basically an afterthought, created from the blood of some lesser traitor god for one purpose: to be slaves, to do the dirty work so the gods can relax. Genesis counters this with one of the most powerful ideas in all of human history, that humanity is the pinnacle of creation, made in the very image of God, not as slaves but as royal representatives tasked with stewardship.
Genesis wages this war of ideas through a process that scholars call demythologization. See, in Babylon, the sun, moon, and stars were powerful gods that controlled your destiny. Genesis deliberately knocks them off their pedestals. It doesn't even give them their proper names, sun and moon, just calling them the greater and lesser lights, basically functional objects created to serve humanity by marking time.
Now, this ancient context, this direct argument against pagan myths, it's often completely lost in our modern debates, which tend to read Genesis 1 through the lens of a conflict it was never, ever intended to address, the one with modern science.
And this has led to a few different camps. You have young Earth creationists who read the text as a literal, scientific account of 6 24-hour days. You have old Earth creationists who try to harmonize the text with science by saying the days are actually long geological ages. But then there's a third view, one that argues we might be missing the entire point by focusing on material origin.
This is the functional creation view, and it's most associated with a scholar named John Walton. He argues that for the ancient mind, something didn't truly exist just because it was physically there. It existed when it had a function and a role in an ordered system. So when Genesis says God created, it means he was assigning functions. The creation of the sun on day 4 wasn't about manufacturing a star, it was about giving it the job of ruling the day and marking the seasons.
This reframes the whole story. It's not a blow-by-blow account of material manufacturing. It's a 7-day inauguration ceremony for the entire cosmos as God's great temple. And on the 7th day, he doesn't stop working because he's tired. He takes up residence to rule. This view basically resolves the science conflict by arguing that Genesis simply isn't playing the same game. Science is asking how, and Genesis is asking why.
So, why does digging into all this ancient context and these different interpretations even matter today? Well, because whether you read it literally or functionally, the core ideas in this chapter have profoundly and really undeniably shaped the world we all live in.
I mean, just consider one of its most potent claims, that all of humanity, male and female, is created in the imago Dei, the image of God. In a world where kings and pharaohs were considered divine and pretty much everyone else was disposable, this was a radical, earth-shattering declaration of universal human value.
And this single concept, that every single person has an inherent sacred worth just because they bear the divine image, well, that provided the philosophical groundwork for what would eventually become our modern understanding of natural, universal, and inalienable human rights.
But the legacy doesn't even stop there. The idea of a rational, ordered world created by a single lawgiver gave early modern scientists like Newton the confidence to search for universal laws of nature. The idea that creation is very good and that humanity's role is stewardship, well, that provides a powerful basis for environmental ethics. Its impact is woven into the very fabric of Western thought. So the crucial takeaway here is that the enduring genius of Genesis 1 isn't found by trying to make it into a science textbook. Its power lies in its profound vision for what the cosmos is and what humanity's place is within it. A purposeful existence, endowed with dignity in a world that is fundamentally good.
And that leaves us with a final thought. If this ancient story, this manifesto, had such a world-shaping impact by giving people a framework for purpose and value, what are the foundational stories that we tell ourselves today? What are the modern manifestos that define our own sense of purpose, our own understanding of human worth, and our own vision of the world?